What's the worst name you've ever seen somebody call their child? When Chinese immigrants come to North America, they usually get to pick their own Western name. My cousin selected not Donald or Ronald, but Bonald. My sister's boss parents picked Betty for all 5 of their daughters. Vegeta. I used to work in data entry for a dental company from Texas. The only thing that made the job bearable was laughing at obscure names. This one stood out the most. We did surveys for colleges. Kids filled out cards at college fairs. They got put into a system, and later we called with a survey that decided the level of paperwork we send them to apply. My friend next to me had to call dipeshit slapeshit. Somehow that got past data entry and past my friend's visual clues. He asked for dipeshit slapeshit and then paused, realizing his mistake. The mother on the other end of the phone actually thought the whole thing was funny. Lots of other funny names. Same guy calling, but during fundraising season, called Magic Johnson's wife whose name is Cookie. My aunt used to work at a hospital and a new mother named her twin daughters Regina and Vegina. Vegina will forever hate her sister. That reminds me of a STF a parent's story about a woman who named one of her daughters Vajesty. Ice stain, pronounced Austin. I work in a children's hospital and just before the baby was born, Dad went out drinking to celebrate and got the kid's name tattooed on himself. Spelled it wrong. Ran with it. Why not? Try spelling Austin where your finger slips so much that the result is ice stain. Ariela classmate in my kid's preschool. I crack up every time I see it. It's decorated on the classroom door. Poor Princess Ariela. Her name was in a circle shape one day and I just lost it. Knew a girl named Shamba. Her parents couldn't pick between Shannon and Amber so they combined them. Also went to high school with a Nick Nickerson, which is baffling. Had a professor named James Saint. James. Turns out it wasn't his real name, and he changed to that after he murdered his family. I saw a file folder in a courthouse once. The name of the person suing was Jose Matajulius, which in English means Joseph kills Jews. Matamoros, that is, more killer, is a pretty common Spanish last name. When I was a sub years ago, there was a student in one class named Alexandra. What exactly do her parents expect her to do for a living? P. Dudoy. Saw a woman in the supermarket call her child of between 3-5 a cunt factory because they picked something off of the shelf. I'm not sure if OP was going for names or insults, but cunt factory deserves a post regardless. Thomas. David Davis. David Davies, 2 different men, both conservative members of parliament. And James Pond. I mean please. Had a customer at a previous job named Richard. Granted, this is Louisiana, so the last name is pronounced Richard. Also one named Billy Hill. Our computer system filed people by surname, so I chuckled every time Billy came up. Oh crap, one I can finally answer. I went to middle school with a kid who had foster parents. Apparently his biological mother was getting into all kinds of legal trouble and he was remanded into state custody the day he was born. The mother, being the kind soul she was, decided that in order to protest her unfairly being held accountable for her crimes, she would name her son something rebellious. This kid's full legal name, and I'm not freaking kidding, was California is a police state, Jackson. We just called him Cal State. The name's Jackson. California is a police state. Jackson Q007 theme. In the pool at a Disneyland resort. Little boy, my name is Tiger. What's yours? My kid, Lan. Then the grandparents tell me their daughter is responsible for naming him Tiger, and they hate it, and they visibly cringe when they say, and it's spelled with a Y, Tiger. My mother was the secretary for our local parish, and about 15 years ago the names they were getting for baptisms started to get really weird. It started with the basic Nevi and the like, then things like Sky Blue and Sidewalk Grey, a set of twins. It was Sweet Sugar Baby that made her decide to retire. Sky Blue and Sidewalk Grey, a set of twins. Somebody picked a favorite early. I was at my sister-in-law's high school graduation and when they were reading off everyone's name there was a kid whose name was Obsession. I did my senior high school volunteer project at a child services office. Saw a file for a kid named Holly Davidson. That was just his first name. CFO at one of the places I worked had the first name Holly. His middle name was Davidson. There's a regular at the bar I work at. According to his driver's license, his name is Pinesterol Chavez. 1/2 brutal dictator. 1/2 little rascal reject. His parents must have been in the pine straw business. Pine straw is used for landscaping in the southeast. I used to work in pine straw at 7 and up to when I was 17. Must have wanted to promote the business. LOL. My brother's friend had a daughter last week and named her Henley. I haven't had the courage to ask him why he named his daughter after a shirt member of the Eagles. My best friend also met a woman in her mother's group who named her son Anchor. Seriously. Co-worker named his son Binks, which reminded me of Thackeray Binks from Hocus Pocus. At least Henley sounds like a name. My first year of high school, year 8 class, had a kid named Jonathan Thomas in it. No joke. We were watching a sex ed video once, and when the announcer went through the list of slang terms for the penis, he said the kid's name and everyone laughed at him. Poor guy. I was once a substitute teacher and the most obnoxious name I had heard of was Royal. Not to mention that kid was the worst. I haven't met anyone with the name yet, but there are a baffling amount of people out there who have named their child Khaleesi. Idiots. Don't they know it's Khaleesi? In Germany we have the Standesamt, which is our civil registration office that handles all sorts of things like marriage. Another purpose they serve is approving names for children. If they deem a name could harm the child's future or is not a real name, they can reject it. Even with this protection in place, there are still children with stupid names. I've met these people a few times that named their son Pepe. No, it's not a nickname for Pedro or Peter. His name is freaking Pepe. To make it worse, both parents are super white and they have a Polish last name. Good old Pepe Polsisks we are. My family are all immigrants in America, and when we first moved here and met other Russian immigrants, we had a lot of fun making fun of the names they'd give their kids. They were fairly normal, American names, but paired with their last names it was hilarious. We had a Jessica Galapupenko, that last name sort of means naked belly, and an Elvis Yablochkin. I don't know why that amused us so much, but it did. I know this may not really fit, but I know a Japanese guy named Bob. Not Robert, just Bob. His parents moved to the US not long after World War II and didn't know Bob was short for Robert and wanted him to have an American name. Yeah, I thought this was about people berating their kids, not parents naming their kids stupidly. Oh well. I was in Target the other day and this very wealthy looking woman, not too wealthy, as we were in Target, yells to her maybe 4-year-old daughter, "Don't touch that." How many times do you have to be told? Are you dumb? Now this is a pretty crappy thing to say, but some meatball looking guy in sweatpants then rounds the corner and confronts the woman. He's yelling, "Don't call your daughter dumb. Don't you know that's child abuse? I'm going to call Child Protective Services on you." And then he demands to know this lady's name. He's screaming, "Give me your driver's license," and actually advancing on this woman. And this lady has the biggest WTF expression on her face. The guy is trying to grab the lady's purse and she is red-faced, yelling at the top of her lungs, "If you take one step closer I will pepper spray you." Then, like 10 large male Target workers materialize out of the Star Wars toy aisle and get between the two of them, and the guy is now taking a couple of steps back, but still yelling stuff like "child abuser, child abuser, terrible mother here. She beats her kid and I'm standing there with my son, holding a Lego spaceship, some meatball looking guy. LOL. Teacher back in high school told me that one. Apparently some parents named their kid Pipeline, like they didn't know what a pipeline was and thought it was an actual name, pronounced German. Went to school with a kid called Richard Head. His parents did it intentionally because they thought it would teach him to be tough. Went to school with a kid called Bend Over. His parents did it intentionally because they thought it was hilarious. He was saved in school by the fact that his little sister was possibly the best looking person in the Tree County area. Went to school with, and lived in the same town as, a kid called Michael Hunt. Parents did not do it on purpose, but after it was pointed out to them they started telling people because they thought it was funny. Kid always introduced himself as Mike Long, which people always just accepted until they met his parents. Went to school with a girl named Teresa Green. Her parents did not do it on purpose. Teresa Green. It took me a lot longer than I wish it had to realize the joke here is trees are green. I was at a movie theater once and this guy walks in with his daughter. She was probably 3 years old. She ran over to the arcade games and excitedly yells to her dad, "Look daddy, it's Pac-Man." Her dad looked over in her general direction and said, "It's Ms. Pac-Man, dumbass." I wanted to punch him in his freaking face. Some people have that kind of relationship with their kids, where they can call them a dumbass when they get Pac-Man and Ms. Pac-Man mixed up. And then the kid can call them a fuckface when they say they weren't talking about that machine. They were talking about the one behind it, moron. When I was in the Navy there was a guy with the last name Burrito. In the Navy your job rate and rank is also your title. He was an A Bearman, which is shortened to M, so he was a B in Burrito. My nephew was in the Navy with a Seaman Hunter and a Seaman Sack. Both of those guys couldn't wait to level up. Insert any random ghetto name here. My brother's was a teacher in a high-risk area and had a student named Shitiguana. It was supposed to be pronounced Shitiguana. My gym teacher's name was Terry Tinkler. He said he once met a guy named Peter Piper and started laughing in his face. The dude was like, "Why are you laughing at me?" And my teacher was like, "It's okay, I'm named Terry Tinkler," and they both had a laugh. My friend's last name is Raper and MIST. I jokingly call him X the Raper. Also he is getting a doctorate and will be Dr. Raper. Please tell me he is going to be a therapist. Uniquia. Pronounced Uniqua. Twins named Kenneth and Kennetha. Pajamas. Emphasis on first syllable. Xerxes. Pronounced Xerus. My friend and I call her daughter Rat Poop. We all shared a motel room one night at a cheap Red Roof Inn. My wife and I in one bed and her daughter in the other. In the morning she shook the chutes to find 3 rat turds under them. This was referenced later when she said, "Well, you didn't have to spend the whole night with rat poop in bed with you," to which my wife immediately caught the beat, said, "That's a terrible thing to call your daughter. It has stuck years later." Iona is a popular girl's name in the UK, but pairs terribly with any surnames that are nouns, like Iona Wrench or Iona Burger. Dad went to high school with a tennis racket. Had a soccer coach getting pee at the lack of effort from his U10 team. He proceeded to yell at them for a solid 10 minutes at halftime, finishing up his remarkable pep talk by saying, "Now get out there and do something positive, you tar buckets." I went to uni with a girl called Cunty. Her father changed her name when she went back to India after the first semester. She came back and was called Myra. Went to high school with sister and brother, Sega and Sonic. Props to her dad for not making her just live with that name though. I'm guessing it's pronounced Kunti, but still, poor girl. Kevins. Yeah, Kevin with an S. Kevins. He was on our high school swim team. He was a goofy goober. He used to wear his Speedo above his belly button. Kevins. I have one, but it's a tad more depressing. In high school there was a girl always in the guidance counselor's office, usually over grades, direction, pregnancy, drugs. She just seemed to come from bad people and never got a chance in life. Her name was probably the nail in the coffin though. Tequila Self. My older stepsis is a kindy teacher and had a girl called Opium last year. There have been many other weird names but I can't remember. PS I can understand staying away from names like Jessica, Brittany and Michael etc, but I think it's wrong and unfair to give a name like this. For people not aware, opium is a highly addictive narcotic drug acquired in the dried latex form from the opium poppy, Papaver somniferum, seed pod. Traditionally the unripened pod is slit open and the sap seeps out and dries on the outer surface of the pod. The resulting yellow-brown latex, which is scraped off of the pod, is bitter in taste and contains varying amounts of alkaloids such as morphine, codeine, thebaine and papaverine. H is also derived from opium and is probably the most addictive drug in the world. I went to elementary school with a girl named Lagina, not pronounced Lagina, but pronounced like the female body part, only with an L. Also, she was valedictorian of her class, so we heard her name a lot. I don't know if you mean name as I'm a rude statement, or the child's actual name, but I had a friend, when I was a teenager, whose father basically called him a CM stain. They were arguing about some nonsense and his dad busted out with "I should have left you on the bed sheets." I've heard this recently and a few times since, but that was the first time I had ever heard it. It was about a decade ago now. Filipino woman I work with has called her kids mudbloods and her little half-breeds. Her husband is a Nordic-looking blonde-haired blue-eyed cop and she is a sassy very petite Filipino. She has also told me to kiss her brown butt before. A great mom just has a weird sense of humor. I think that's funny. If I had biracial kids I'd probably call them half-breeds too just because it's a HP reference and it'd be hilarious to have them say that their mom calls them half-breeds. It'd be a term of endearment. Pro tip for these threads. Ignore anyone whose aunt friend works in a hospital school and told them about an apparently hilarious name, especially Ladisha. Igberdina Maria. She goes by a different name, though. She's a nice girl. I quite like her. I think I'm the only one in class that knows her real name, though. Finally a thread I can contribute to. I'm a supply teacher and over the last year I kept track of all the interesting names and spellings I've come across. Enjoy. Yes, I know my alphabetical list isn't quite right. After a while I gave up. Arahana, Athron, Ale, Ailey, Bryantka, Breedin, Bryden, Bryson, Bowen, Breelin, Brinley, Corvin, Calhoun, Colin, Devea, Davian, Dreeden, Darrow, Emily, Evander, Hawthorne, Hinley, Jacelyn, Gerald, Jeriel, Jaden, Caleb, Kimberlin, Kyson, Kyla, Kinsley, Kinsley, Loria, Lori, Leah, Layla, Lizen, Macklin, Maxon, Maddox, Maya, Methuselah, Peyton, Paisley, Quinson, Rylan, Riker, Riading, Sierra, Xavier, Zendaya, Zale, Zoyden, Zealand, Zeppelin. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.